This is Chaplain April, and I'm just going to go over our notes. We only have one page today, so I'm going to make this really quick. So, of course, we started out the day again with the Zen 5 minutes of reflection, silent reflection. And then our professor was giving us places that we could go and check out while we're here, but none of us have had time to do that. He's like, where have you guys gone since you're here in town? And it's like, we've been doing homework every night, so I haven't gone very many places. So there's a bunch of places we could go, different museums. There's a Bush Presidential Library and Museum on campus, so I might go there tomorrow. I think we're gonna let out early, so I might go check that out. And our other professor last week was telling us that the Bridwell Library has a lot of a lot of things that people look for at other libraries, and they have them at the Bridwell, and it's a theology library. So pastors and ministers from other places come from all over to go to the Bridwell Library. So, and we have access to that. So when we write our papers and stuff, you know, it's a good thing to be able to use. But I think there's a lot we can do online where we don't actually have to go into the library, but it's actually right down the street from where we're having classes. So who knows, we could go. So we started out with the scripture, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all things, which is Paul, 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18. He called it Paul's injunctions. He talked about Zen again. There's a lot of ritual in Zen. So yesterday we had the Zen walking, and that was really interesting. I took some photos of the Zen center that we went to, and then we did did I talk about this yesterday? Oh, I think I must have talked about it yesterday. So the tea ceremony was really the highlight for me, where they served us tea and all of that. I posted some photos. So the question that we have been asking is, who am I? Which, anyway, and now we're asking, how will I do what I'm called to do? So there's a book he told us about called A Long Quiet Highway. He talked a little bit about Vatican II, that they had gone back to their roots to find out who they were as a church, a Catholic church, and that they changed some of their constitution, I think he said. So they were asking themselves, who are we in this modern world? Because some of the things hadn't been changed for a very long time. So something about ad intra, which is new findings from scholars, and then ad extra is looking at the world. So they used both of those, and they brought in a bunch of different theological people to help them work through some of these things, and they determined that the church is different than it was in the Renaissance, etc., etc. So they needed to keep growing and renewing the message to adjust to the world that we are living in now. So I'm not sure exactly what all things were changed, but things were. So ad extra, it's Latin for who am I called to serve. So we had this whole discussion about leadership. Leaders should be servants. Can't remember if I spoke about that yesterday in the video, but I really believe that myself. We shouldn't just keep talking about leadership. Leaders should be serving in some way and should be servants. Where are my gifts most suited? And then he talked about this quote from Frederick Mesner again. And then he said, what is the good news? Thomas Merton. So he was kind of going over some of the quotes that he's already given us throughout the week. God's love, where Thomas Merton saw God's love shining through them. God's love has been infused into each one of us. We are assured of God's love, and that is a source of rejoicing that we can all have. So I didn't realize that he was a Jesuit priest for 25 years. That's a long time. So he said that every morning they would start, some bell would ring at 5 a.m. They would get up and they would say in Latin, Benedicamus Domino. And then the response would be, thanks be to God. And then that they would each kneel by their beds and put their arms out for the day, telling God that they were ready to receive from Him. And they had this whole saying that they did. So he was telling us to offer ourselves to God every day, that maybe we will take this practice up for ourselves. And then he was telling us how some of them do it, and he got actually down onto the floor, and some of us were and he laid on the floor to show us, so he kneeled and then laid down. We're like, Dr. Habito, where are you? He's on the floor. Okay. So he's really, really passionate about this, and he wants us to get that part of it, to bring some of these silent rituals kind of into our own lives, is what he's hoping, I guess. So you offer yourself to God in the morning and say, I am yours. And then you do a reflection at night of gratitude. And then you said when you're dealing with other people and working with other people, you look at the world, you look at them from the eyes of a loving God, and that you might see people differently when you do that. And then someone shared the Wesley Covenant prayer, which is so beautiful. I will definitely be using that. Obviously don't have it all written down here because it's long, but I looked it up and I'll share it someday. Then we went into this book. Oh shoot, I didn't grab the book, but it's about family systems theory. So it's about the self and the non-self, and differentiation and self-differentiation, and how to gauge our own anxiety. And the antidote to anxiety was this self-differentiation thing. Chapter 1 is about unresolved emotional attachment. So these are presentations that people did, so I just got a little bit of notes, not that many. Common mistakes are, there will be common mistakes, and the differentiation thing is a process. We talked about the triune mystery of God. And then someone was saying with the family systems theory, do a genogram, which is not just doing your family tree, something about you find out patterns and things in your family, and it's this whole thing. You find a connection between the people and patterns that are there, and you can use this to recognize things that are going on and maybe change things. And then, just in life, others may put you in a role that you don't fit in, or that you don't even know they put you in. So don't be defined by others, but you can still be connected to them, but not defined by them. So respond from your core with compassion and love of God. Don't be run by the emotional system. So that's part of the differentiated self. And then there were 6 principles for re-entering the family after you do all of this work. So after that, I kind of stopped taking notes because it was presentations and I was just kind of taking it all in, and then professor would interject things and read things. So wow, I'm at 9 minutes and I'm done. I'm just very tired. Today I struggled, I think, the most that I have yet in class. I was really just feeling weary today, and I just struggled to make it through. And we even went over what we normally do. But tomorrow's the last day. He's going to let us out early. So some people were kind of lobbying for that, and he said he'll do it. So I'm just going to have all my stuff packed up tonight. I will get it in the car in the morning, and then when he releases us, I'll ask that one classmate if he needs a ride. If not, then I'll ask him if he wants to go to that museum maybe with me. because he has nothing else to do. I think he's here all weekend because he doesn't leave till Monday or something. And he lives in Malaysia, so he's going back, I think he said Monday. So if he wants to go, then he can go. And then I told myself I'm gonna go to IKEA because every time I come to Dallas, I never go. And I see it on some of these YouTube videos that I watch. They have a lot of like different little trinket type things and dishes and just interesting things. It's not really my style because I'm not a modern style person. As far as like furniture goes and stuff, not really into modern, and that seems like well, maybe not ultra modern, but it's more on the modern style, and I'm more not completely traditional, but I like classic type things. We'll see. I just thought that might be a fun little thing on my way home. I haven't gone because every time when I look it up, it says it's like 25 minutes away, and I just have not felt like driving somewhere that far away. But if he lets us leave early tomorrow, then I will do that. So tonight I have to do my report, another report. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I signed up for 2 reports. A couple of other people did that because he had so many spots for reports, and then we had one person drop out of the class, and we thought she was coming back in January, but she's dropped the whole program. She's not coming back, and that's the other chaplain. Her parents live with her, and I guess it's just too much right now, And then this other girl that was coming from Liberia, she didn't make it, and they told us that, she just couldn't afford to do it right now or something, so maybe she'll come next year, so we probably won't meet her. But so we had a couple people drop out, so he had more slots than he had people to do this. So some other students took 2 slots, but theirs were all in the same book. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I told him that I really like this article that I read, and it's out of a book called, what's the book called? Globalization, Spirituality, and Justice. And it's this man named Daniel Grudy, and this chapter is called A Gift of God, A Human Responsibility, the Global Community and the Challenge of Justice. And I really like this article. It's really long. This is 17 pages, and that's 2 pages at a time. So it's kind of a long chapter. I liked it because it's about humanitarian stuff, and I'm all about that, So when I read this, I was just really impressed with this article. So I printed it today because I'm just like, I don't want to type all this, and I'm just going to highlight, and I'm going to do my little presentation that way. We're just trying to get through it, and so I think I can just speak on these different points through here. I've got it like highlighted, and it took me forever to print this because you have to go through this whole process and make sure you find the right printer and and I printed it twice, and I couldn't find where it printed, and then come to find out it had printed downstairs on a printer there, and someone had already taken it and put it into the recycling bin. I'm like, what? So I have to fish this out of the recycling bin. I'm like, I'm not printing it again. So anyway, so I'm like, I just need a piece of paper, because all week we've been like just online or on our computers, But so this talks about, it's about poverty and how, wealthy we are over here in the West, we're just, so it talks about poverty, just long story short, and that Africa is the continent that is the poorest continent, and that the church, we could all be doing more, and gives all these stats about things that we spend money on. We spend more money on like perfumes than we do to, help eradicate poverty or do anything to help them. I mean, all these stats, it's just on and on and on in here. It's crazy. And so then it talks about, so it kind of sets it up for that, and then it talks about the human heart, how we need to be, doing these things, doing more for this. And personally, I believe that the church as a whole, and I'm not talking about just one denomination or one religion, just the church as a whole should be doing way more in all of these respects, as far as the Bible tells us to, it tells us to do that and help the poor and the widows and all this. And we're just not doing, we're doing some, but there's so much more we could do. And so my report is going to be on, God tells us that we will always have the poor with us. And personally, I believe that means, there's a poverty mindset. So you're not going to be able to eradicate it completely, because some of it is a mindset that the governments have and, things. But you could do a lot more than what you are doing. We don't need a whole continent that's in dire poverty, So, you will always have the poor, but we need to have less. That's my opinion. So anyway, then it goes into this heart thing and how, globalization has caused all this economic stuff and taken the heart out of it. And then it goes into theology. So maybe why I really like this is because it talks about, at the end, it talks about the path to peace. And before that, it talks about theology, I think. What is that one quote? Theology offers reflection on what it means to be authentically human in the world. The discipline of theology is closely related to the academic study of Christian spirituality. Christian spirituality draws from the same wells of inspiration as theology, but it also seeks to understand the truths in the light of the complexities of human experience. Spirituality deals with how human life takes shape in the experience of our relationships with God, others, and ourselves. God, this is printed so light. I'm having trouble seeing the words after I highlighted it. These disciplines need each other. For me, there is no real contradiction between the world of science and the world of religion. Oh yeah, that was another thing that I really loved, because I believe science and religion go hand in hand. They're not opposing one another. And he said that in this article, so I was like, oh wow. So then he talks about a theological problem called money theism. So we're just all about material things here, So when theology loses a sense of justice as a central reference point of the kingdom of God, it can easily become a hollow reflection on abstractions that have little connection to reality and little potential to transform the world or the human heart. Because Christian theology is about fidelity to the gospel message within one's own life and times, every generation faces the challenges of identifying which theologies will ultimately lead to communion with God and others, and rejecting those that will certainly divide us as a human family. And then it goes on to talk about how the contribution that theology makes to the process of globalization and can help us rethink the meaning of theology, to reflect on what it means to be human before God. So it says, in contrast to a global culture that understands salvation almost exclusively in terms of material and economic progress, Christian faith affirms that to be human means that one is made in the image and likeness of God. One of the primary tasks of Christian theology is to distinguish the God in whose image and likeness we are made from a God of our own making, irrespective of one's situation in life, one's possessions, and one's bank account. Christianity recognizes the fundamental dignity and infinite worth of each and every person. So he's contrasting it with this globalization. Christianity sees each human life as profoundly interconnected with others in a series of overlapping relationships. The Christian scriptures understand this interconnectedness not simply in terms of information transfer, but in terms of embeddedness. To be embedded means to belong to at least 4 sets of relationships. So then I hadn't actually come to the very conclusion yet, but it goes into the Paschal mystery, which is the Easter mystery. So of course I love Easter, so this article just has 3 things that I love in it. So I'll let you know tomorrow how it all ends up, how he wraps this up after I do this little presentation tomorrow. And I think I'm first up in the morning, so I've got to get to doing this and getting my little bullet points to make sure I know what I'm going to say. And I will see you tomorrow for the final day of our first set of classes, and we will have 2 of them done by tomorrow. So that's quite an accomplishment, I think, anyway. So we only have to do this 3 more times. And I found out, oh my God, I found out that our classes start on January 2nd. So we were talking about this at the end today when we went into groups, and they're like, have you seen the schedule for January? We're meeting on the 2nd. That's like right after New Year's Eve. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And somebody said, we should just meet and all go out New Year's Eve and then, go to class the next morning. I don't know how that's going to work. I guess that would be a day later. Anyway, they have to do it that way because the professors have the semester. Our stuff is outside of their regular semester, so they want to have it all done and all graded and turned in, the grades turned in and everything before their normal semester actually starts. So that's why they're doing it that way. That's why we're in the summer, we're in June. So that's after the semester's over. So the professors have time to do all that. And then the January is like a crunch time where we have to get it all in those 2 weeks prior to their semester. So it's a little bit strange, but I know that we will not have final papers because one of the professors had said that because of us having to have things graded and turned in. You're not going to have a paper after class is over in January. So we were all happy about that, but we were like, well, how much pre-class work are we going to have? Are we going to have more than we did this time? So anyway, I'll read about the Paschal mystery and how this all ends up, and I will see you guys tomorrow in the next video. Take care.